All right, how about now?
Oh, that looks beautiful, Danielle.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Okay. So I promise I will not take you through every single one of these bullets unless you are so excited about government relations strategy and infrastructure. You just let me know and I'll go deeper. But my project was based on the historic levels of federal stimulus that are coming out of the bills and legislation in Washington that are influencing and driving spending at every state at a level that we have not seen and probably will not see again in our lifetime. This is really important to us because the majority of the funding is freeing up dollars for infrastructure and primarily green, sustainable, and renewable energy resources. So we're thinking modernization, we're thinking electrification of fleets, efficiencies in water, wastewater. A lot of things that we touch every day within the channels and segments we serve are about to have a huge opportunity in the US to take advantage of this funding that's coming out. So in the US, at Schneider Electric, the reseller, so the wholesale distribution network that is represented by our wholesale partners, our retailers, and our more omni-channel partners, represents about 72% of revenue sold in the United States for Schneider. It's a really big number for a global organization like ours, and it's really important that we position ourselves and our partners not only as the best partner to serve this demand, but to actually make sure that the municipalities and that the government officials and jurisdictions are selecting us at the specification and project level. So this project, I put it together by partnering with our government relations team, specifically our water team, because that's where we're seeing the majority of spending happen. And we worked on a channel action plan that is going to help prepare both our channel sales organization as well as our distributors in the areas of training, lobbying, relationship building, and business development. And that is something that we will do in a more specialized area. It's not something that's going to be for every mom and pop distributor, unfortunately, because it's going to require a lot of inventory and a lot of upfront investment of training, of personnel resources, and of inventory resources to serve the demand that's coming.
Hey, Danielle.
Yeah.
Danielle, before you go any further, I don't know if this is within your control. There just seems to be some background noise coming in and out. I don't know if you noticed that. Does anybody else notice that or just me?
I'm the only one home, so I don't know if it's on your end. I don't hear anything, but
we don't hear it right now. Okay.
I'm not hearing
I want to let you know.
Okay, okay, stop me again if it happens again.
Yeah, it sounds like your husband's doing the dishes.
No, actually, my mom was here earlier doing them, but no, they're all gone. It's just, although, wait, you know what? The garbage truck is coming by. You guys might have supersonic hearing. The garbage truck is right outside of my window right now. Should I keep going? All right, I'm going to keep going. I think it's clear why this project is important to Schneider. I chose it personally because I think it's a really interesting and opportunistic time in our channel to position ourselves to be the premier sustainability partner driving our industry towards a more carbon neutral and electrified future in manufacturing and within our selling solutions. So that's my overview of the why. And here's the how. So this was a long and windy road. Anyone who was generous with their time early on in this process knows that I bounced around from several topics. This was always a contender, though I wasn't really certain of the viability until I dug into it further. So, you know, from September on till now, there were several conversations that happened, some executive level buy-ins that needed to happen, some pitches that we needed to do. And so it was a fun and interesting path because it gave me the opportunity to partner with some teams that I've never had the opportunity at Schneider to work with. It unlocked a passion within myself for our government relations and merger and acquisition and policy functions within Schneider. And a fun fact, the reason I'm taking the GRE is because I'm applying to go to law school starting this fall. To better position myself to really drive some change in this arena for Schneider in the future. I'll pause for a second because I know that's a lot. Do you guys want to go through this or can I just keep going?
We'll open it up for some questions at the end.
Okay.
Everybody be writing down your questions. I know that this is really interesting and I'm sure there's going to be quite a few questions. So go ahead.
All right, so I'm sure that this looks like a lot of everyone's outline, develop the scope, refine the focus, get the executive buy-in, build the relationships internally with the subject matter experts and the influencers and stakeholders, refine again, leverage some existing content, because I didn't make this up, right? This came from people that devote their careers to this. So I was able to leverage a lot of existing content and the expertise of the teams that are sort of adjacent to the channel. And then we've kind of built this pitch, which is the subsequent 20-something pages that I will not go through. But we pitched that to our key managers at distributor partners at our forum events. They loved the idea. They got really excited. So then we built a channel action plan, delivered that to all of the executive leaders internally, got the buy-in and said, go for it. Figure out how do we do more and how do we do it next. So that's kind of where we are now. It sounds like a lot to get the buy-in, but this is something that we've never done before. It's an area that the channel has never invested in before, and it's a level of funding that we've never seen before. So getting the buy-in that this was a really good place to spend time and start investing our resources in, it really did take all of this time. And that pitch happened in May, and it went really well. So that was a fantastic outcome and really promising for the project. So we made some key recommendations to leaders, and this was really what kind of helped get that approval and that buy-in. There's a clear path, right? We know where the money is going. We know when it's hitting.
You've got about 30 seconds left.
We know which channels and segments it's going to hit first and hardest. And so we are now prepared to get our most qualified partners in front of the municipalities with us to win the business at the specification level and exponentially grow all of our market share in the government space this year and over the next 7 to 10 years. That says the end. I'll stop.
Yay! Wow, give her some love. What questions? Let's get a couple of questions from the group.
I have one.
Sure.
What is that stimulus dollar amount
So
they're going to spend?
Package. Sure. So their 1.9 trillion came out of the American Rescue Plan. 1.2 came out of the infrastructure bill, and eventually the assumption is something will come out of Build Back Better. Not what we've seen yet, because it keeps going on hold, but that is around the neighborhood of $1.8 trillion. And so I'm sorry, if I said billions, it was 1.9 trillion, 1.2 trillion, and 1.8 trillion, not billion. So we're talking big money, yeah.
Do you know a portion of that they're dedicating to the wastewater project?
I do. Well, so wastewater will fall within several different departments, but you'll see the majority of wastewater is set to grow. Where is it? It's going to grow 10% over the next 3 years, year over year. And we're thinking that the total stimulus that will affect water is $54 billion.
Daniel, as you started researching this, what surprised you the most so far with this project?
That it was not more in the arenas of e-mobility, that it was not more in the arenas of clean energy. I thought that we were going to see more about alternative energy and electrification be bigger. And in fact, it's really about power and grid modernization, water, airports. The real consumers of non-renewable energy are going to get modernized first, which actually makes a ton of sense when you think about if we are going to move to electrification, there is a lot of modernization that has to happen in sort of our dirty energy spaces before it can handle the new pressures that are going to hit the grid and that are going to hit our water systems. Because as grid and power consumption goes up, so does water exponentially. They kind of go hand in hand.
What excites you the most?
The opportunity to be a part of it now. It is so unique. And that's what gets me excited when there's something that we've never seen before. So we don't know how to tackle it. It's the challenge of figuring out how do we tackle it and how do we win first. So
I know there's no way of you knowing this answer, but in your head as you're working through it, like what would be, like what do you expect to be awarded from this stimulus money for Schneider? Like what would you think? Like I think we could realistically get blank.
I think of all of that funding, if you strip away all of the places that we don't play, I'd say that we would be thrilled to be somewhere from 10 to 20% of market share. And that's in our core spaces. That's not in all of the ancillary spaces. So that would be a huge number, but that would be in a very narrow scope of automation and energy.
How exciting. Daniel, you were such an adventurer. Like you're like, I'm wondering what I'm gonna do. And you take it on with so much passion. You're like, I could do this and I could do this. And now it's led you to going to law school. You have to have a sense of adventure to take on law school are you gonna work full time? And you're still gonna be a full-time mom and spouse, I'm guessing.
They have to stay around, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to stay around. That's a lot. And we look forward to watching where these adventures take you.
Well, thank you. Well, I've been inspired by a lot of this, so I appreciate the push to do something crazy. My early midlife crisis.
Daniel, why don't you choose who's going to go next?
Okay. I'm going to choose Brian because he looks so fancy and he's right next to me on my little grid. Sorry, Brian. That's what happens when you wear a tuxedo.
I know, it's so impressive that he got all dressed up.
I'll just add, Danielle, that last slide. I like how you put in there your recommendation to the leadership team. Kind of pulls it back together and says, hey, this is everything I talked about, and it's a lot of information, but here it is. This is what we want to do.
Thank you. Find out we've realized if they don't know exactly what the takeaway is and how to do it, it just becomes another idea that falls down to the bottom of the list.
Yep, it's a good way to circle it out.
Thank you.
All right. That looks about right. Maybe.
Aww, that's a pretty good project. And you did that in a year?
Who? Danielle?
No, you.
Well, it's a small margin, big impact. Yeah, so basically what I focused on was in our industry, we're constantly having to compete with, lower tiered competitors such as Snyder and Siemens, because they like to drive the market down. So we don't lose that market. We also will just say, sure, we'll drop it by 10 points. Why not? Well, I have vendors that when you're in a competitive situation, they'll also contribute monies towards that. We just have to ask and give a good business case. The big issue on that is that usually happens with the small stuff. The small stuff is the stuff that usually gets hit the most and ignored the most. So we kind of noticed that we were losing lots of money, it's not that we were losing money, we just weren't making money. So that's kind of what led to here, and basically how a little more effort by a few people basically can make such a huge impact.
Hey, Brian, am I the only one seeing two adorable, cute girls?
Yeah,
or is everyone else
the wrong screen? All we're seeing is yep. Two cute babies.
They are.
I mean, I could do this. I could watch
this. Small with big impact. So I thought maybe there was like a punchline coming.
Yep, no. I did
same thing.
That's what I was saying. It's like, wow, you did that in a year? I
was like this project isn't that involved, but.
I love it. You need to work them into more of your presentations.
Yeah. Good output. Final result is amazing.
I think he's using this as a tactic.
There's some big thing that's gonna, it's one of Brian's classic jokes.
Here we go. You are sharing screen. You share. How about this one?
There it is.
There you go.
All right. There we go. Now we can start. Small margin, big impact. The effect of improving margin on low dollar commodities and the impact it has on overall profitability. And this is a puppy dog Dexter production. Yeah, so I kind of outlined the issue that we kind of came up with, and it was the fact that we weren't making money on things that were supposed to make money. We weren't losing money, we just weren't making the money. And most of it was ignored just because it takes time and effort for something that's $10 and to get $2 back on it. So the main thing was, yeah, see, now I'm all discombobulated.
You're doing great.
Basically, I was approached about this because I don't have this issue, mainly because I've always taken care of pricing and looked at margin very closely, which is one of the reasons why I kind of got thrown into this. So to verify it though, required a lot of different numbers and data that I usually don't get access to, and I was able to go through it, and over, I want to say, a 6-month time, we lost over $100,000 in margin that we could have easily had. And then when we're expanding it, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we were basically just giving away, and just being, I guess, nice. So the main thing from there was putting a team together, and that could also create a program that's sustainable rather than a kind of a one hitter where everyone does it once and then it's done. So there was a lot of thought process and creative dialogue back and forth on how to make this stick. Yeah, I should have done this. I ran this through earlier. It made sense in my head. Here we go.
Doing great, Brian.
Let's see, company financial. All right, so all right, I don't care about the slides. Here we go. So the biggest kicker on this thing is here. It's getting buy-in. The biggest hurdle is the account managers. They don't care because the low dollar stuff doesn't really make an impact on their commission. So that's where I had issues at first, and I changed my approach by showing them the numbers. And since we are a 100% employee-owned company, it made all of a sudden they had a bigger buy-in, seeing hundreds and thousands of dollars that would go into our company's pocket and doesn't go to one individual. It goes basically to everyone, especially at the end of the year. So that was the first lesson I learned, and that was one of the better things I've learned from this is how you approach. Because the first I expected resistance, but I didn't plan for it as well. So after the first few conversations, I went back to the drawing board. Let's see. Yeah. So the timeline was basically getting a team together, working with everyone, kind of seeing who actually wanted, because not everyone was required to do this. Account managers were, but it was more voluntary on inside sales and pricing coordinator. And everyone involved that actually volunteered for it, they bought into it. And it was just another way to learn and just kind of be creative with each other. So kicking around ideas, I had a guideline of what I thought it would look like. And what was nice is actually having people that improved what I was thinking, and really kind of got the ball rolling where I wasn't the one doing everything. As I said before, the highs of this was the instant financial profitability impact it had. Collaborating with everyone, that was nice because I got to actually interact with a lot more people I normally don't get to across my northern region that's tied to us. The lows is COVID sucks. This thing was really taking off, doing well, and then COVID hit and supply chain issues hit, and vendors didn't have stuff, and then all of a sudden it wasn't about price, it was about who has it. So the program kind of got halted. But that being said, we were still able to gauge the success of it and whether it's something viable to go on and on and on. So the biggest thing I've learned about this, doing this whole entire thing, is having to create a PowerPoint for the first time in over 18 years. Yeah. Really, no, it's the importance of clear and concise and open communication. I didn't do a very good job of it at the beginning. Because of this class, I took a step back and just thought about how I would want to hear it if I were someone who wasn't interested in operations. So that was probably the game changer. And honestly, I'll probably kind of start using that tactic a little bit more rather than going at it versus my point of view. Go at more, at their point of view or something they care about. So
what would you recommend for us to do?
Not sell things for less than what you buy them for.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, no, it's really, everyone's different when you interact with all kinds of different people. But anytime you're kind of feeling resistance from someone talking to them, you might have the wrong approach. They might have a closed mind, but that shouldn't affect how you should approach it, or it should affect how you approach it. So kind of, see what motivates them.
Are we reading this right? This is over $300,000 of improvements to the margin on a
6-month sample size.
Wow.
Yeah, so I lowballed it when I first did the numbers, ran through. I was like, minimum $100,000. But through tracking this, so the effective revenue, when it says effective revenue is down 37%, that means the effective revenue was, let's say, $3 million. Or I'm sorry, $1 million. And now 37% of that is, so now the effective revenue is only 63%. So roughly that's $300,000 of profit that we wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for this program. And what's nice about this program, once you put in get that special pricing for that product, you get it for the whole product group code, and you don't have to do it again. I mean, so it's something that starts off a lot, and then over time gets those items get smaller and smaller each month. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What questions do you have for Brian?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Brian, how did you first identify like the group of products you were gonna tackle? Did that come like from an outside source, or did you have a metric that kind of identified it wasn't really winning?
Internally knowing knowing our core vendors and knowing who we're partnered up with the most. So due to proprietary reasons, I'm not allowed to say the vendors, I was told, but no, we focused with the vendors that we're most gathered with. We have the most market share within our offices. So that was the best starting point, really, and that was the vendor that was most affected. So
got it. So you asked the vendor for feedback, like where should we be, or should we have higher volume, or do you have any sort of? Okay.
There was never, here's the thing, that was never thing that we approached the vendor with. This is something we could have been doing all along for years, and I just assumed that everyone else was doing it. And it turns out very little people were doing it. Because sometimes they'll fall on inside salespeople. Sometimes, inside salespeople like, well, that's the account manager's job. And a lot of, we were getting these reports that show your non-rebate report, basically we call it. And mine was low, so I didn't think that anything else was more than that. And turns out there's a crap load out there. So they're just giving away money.
So now you have consistency across multiple teams too. It just makes it easy for them to know how to do the pricing.
Yes, and that was the one thing I spent most of my time on, is actually creating a booklet or a spreadsheet categorized by PGCs and letting them know what you can actually ask for. Because if you ask for too much, they just say kick rocks. So there was a mean portion of it, and the most aggressive versus hey, we just need to be profitable on this. So there was metrics that they were able to go by, and that was the other issue that Lindsay, I'm glad you brought that up. That was another issue. A lot of people didn't know what to ask for. So it was just a lot of unknowns, and it's unlocking the door, I guess, for them to actually walk through it and see how it's done. And once you do it a few times, it's like clockwork.
Brian, do you have either dedicated resources, or do you plan on adding dedicated resources to focus on this to roll it out to the rest of the company, or is this all on you?
This, as of right now, this is all in our region. There's other parts of our company that have done other regions that have done this a little bit, but not as in depth. I guess it was more about the leadership being more on top of it. That's one of the reasons why my boss kind of got hit up about it, saying, hey, you guys suck. yeah, so, but they, I don't think anyone is doing it the way we are here. So it will be something that we'll launch out once we have a stronger proof, stronger proof of concept. And honestly, it might be 2 years from now. As long as the supply chains keep on like they are, you know, there'll be very little negotiations going on. As you know, it's more about who has it. Like Bob knows what I'm talking about. So, that's why that's where it kind of stings a little bit. Is I want to keep going with this, but I've got to be realistic with when, where, and how to do it.
Brian, did you notice greater growth in your underperforming SKUs or in your more core products?
It's I would say our core products, because that, you know, that's our A movers, and those are the things that, you know, because that was a struggle with a lot of the outside guys. They're like, what? So what? It's just one of these. But you know, it was one of those things. One of those things was linked to so many other things, and so that was, we're really trying to focus on A and B items. And not worried about the C and D items that, you know, because that's just tacky, and just to say, hey, I need 45 cents more on this relay, you know, per se. So that's really where we focused it on, because our vendors are going to come back and say, why do you need this? You've only sold one in 3 years. So we're trying to be strategic about that, at least.
All right, everyone, give virtual applause. Brian, way to go. Brian, you are innovative. You approach this project like an anthropologist. You see, okay, it's like what you get them data, you get them feedback, you're seeing things from the other people's point of view, and you continue to experiment and make changes. When you continue to be innovative like that, not only you're going to get the 300,000 margin for this project, you continue to bring in other projects that are going to give you even bigger margin. So way to be innovative. And thank you for working on this project and bringing it, and, you know, making it as a result of this program and your involvement.
Thank you for saying that, and I really appreciate that. See, I've been working on that, taking compliments.
Yeah.
And you did a very nice job. Who's going next, Brian?
Oh, of course, James. He's been looking at me.
I just preferred to have the two girls on the screen the whole time. It's okay though.
I know it's weird. They don't even look like me, do they? Really makes you think.
I think the little one looks like you. I was thinking that as staring at her for a few minutes there.
I agree with that. I think the little one does too.
Well, all I have is the background of a golf course, so I'm not gonna try to share that one. Let's see. You can see the whole thing there, right?
Can't see anything yet.
Oh, I'm frozen.
Trying.
You're a manager. What's your excuse, James? I know you do these all the time.
Can y'all hear me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. My screen is just thinking.
Oh, now there's an echo.
Dog ate my homework.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, just let me know when you're ready. All right, everybody. I did my capstone project on it's a PO change modification to our system. And today I'm going to go through the project overview and importance, the implementation, results and next steps, and then my recommendations and benefits. So went a little too fast there. So the problem that I saw was that because of all of the supply chain disruptions that we're experiencing as a result of many different factors, you can't just blame COVID anymore. We were getting a lot of changes to our purchase orders from our vendors, and there's a whole other problem that exists where we're not really getting good information or getting any information at all. But I thought the one thing that we could control was when we do get good information from a supplier or any information, that we could, you know, proactively alert our customers. And I know it sounds crazy that we didn't have this already. What would happen before is an expediter or a buyer would get a date change, they would upload it in the system, and then they would just never tell anybody. So the sales team had no idea that a change was being made. And it wasn't until they were checking on the order and they realized something had changed, and everybody's frustrated. So I thought, hey, what if the system could alert us instead of depending on a person to tell us that something has changed? What if we get the system to do it for us? So I worked with our IT team to develop a system modification that would alert a specific person or a team of people when a change was made to a vendor purchase order. There's lots of benefits and importance here, and I did break it down for like what was important to me versus what might be important to the company. I think one is like having that automated solution helps improve productivity. I mentioned that everybody was frustrated, so I feel like that alleviates some of that. There's better communication. We're giving better performance to our customers. We all like happy customers, right? That means more business. And I also found that an added bonus was we could also measure vendor OTD with the information that was being provided on these reports. So I felt like as a company, it's important because if we can shift to like this more strategic way of operating and focus more on revenue generating initiatives, you could potentially maybe long-term deter some headcount and of course, customer satisfaction, like I said before. There were lots of steps in this process, but I tried to make this as streamlined as possible. But essentially, I created a mock report with what I wanted. I went to the IT team. I found out the level of effort. I submitted a CMR to ask them to work on the project. They came back with a prototype. And I did lots of testing, and I think I skipped this part, but I pulled in some SMEs to get their feedback on exactly what would benefit the entire company, because I don't know everything. And then so we did lots of back and forth. The SMEs got re-involved. They did help me with testing. And then once we were good with the product, we went to the IT team and said, okay, we're good, move forward. And so they put it into production, and it is now in production and ready for use as of like last week. So I scheduled a meeting. I'm taking an approach where I'm going to do like a smaller team first to roll it out, get some of their input and feedback, and then I'm going to roll it out to the greater organization, which I'm moving ahead here a little bit. So, I feel like we're winning because we have a fully functioning report. It's giving us the information we need. We had an added benefit, and I haven't really been able to measure success yet because we are not actually using it at this point. So like I said before, the plan is to present and train to the greater organization, and then I'll pull information on, adoption, like who's using it. I feel like that's my greatest measurement of success. If people are using it, then that means they probably like it. And also to get feedback from the users. Keep clicking a little bit too far. So my recommendation to you is to take chances. Like you just never know. If you have an idea, you might easily get some buy-in and get your IT teams that want to help you out and create a solution that benefits everybody. And I think the added benefit too is that it helps our team lighten their workload maybe, but also that they can focus more on some strategic efforts. And this really tied in with our company goal, because our vision is to be the best tech-enabled company in the world. And so when we can think innovatively like this, that helps us achieve our vision.
Absolutely. What questions do you have for Andrea?
I have one, as everyone else is thinking. So you worked with the SMEs, you worked with the IT department. What leadership skills do you find yourself utilizing often when you have to collaborate with those individuals, those groups?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing is, I'm going to say the wrong word here. because my brain's not working right now, but I think a lot of it is just getting the buy-in, like motivating people, giving the reasoning by why you should put your time and effort into this. And I did have to use that because I did have some bumps along the road, and one was like getting feedback from the SMEs. Everybody's busy. So I had to like explain to them, here's why this is going to be beneficial for you in the long term. And so I feel like that was probably the biggest part of it, that it was a really easy sell to the IT team. They were like, we know the company's told us that this is our focus and we need to work on things like this. So absolutely, we're going to help you.
Nice.
Yeah, Andrea, it's impressive that you were able to make it this far, because this is something I've requested from both companies I worked at. CED, I didn't expect much because it's not really intertwined, but Mac and Mac, it's something they've been looking into, and they've been having issues. I don't know if it's because of the Enforce system or not, but this would make my job so much more easy for the fact that I just don't guesstimate. Hey, when's that thing coming in? I was like, you ordered like a week ago? Maybe next week. Or just delayed stuff.
We actually have Infor as well. That's our system software. And we have the best developers. That's all I can say about that. They're just so good.
That's what I was trying to find out. You have Infor, so this is something I want to push a little bit more. So this is awesome. I can't believe it's actually possible.
Yeah, Andrea,
It wasn't.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Andrea, this is great. And from my standpoint as a manufacturer, like I've been looking into this just for those miscommunications between our production team and our sales team. And we usually don't find out that something might be late until a day after we get a report that says, hey, this is order due, it didn't ship. And so this is awesome. And I would love to talk to you more about this, especially once you roll it out, because this is exciting.
Yeah, if I could close that piece of the information from the supplier, especially from production and scheduling to their sales team, I would be totally winning here, but that hasn't happened.
Andrea, you have such a holistic approach to leadership. Your ability, and it's been said several times, wow, what a great collaborative project that you had. And you get that collaboration because you think so holistically and about how other people are going to benefit and what's in it for them. And when we think about what's in it for other people, we often get what we're looking for too. So nice job. Thank you so very much. This is a fun Friday afternoon. Andrea, who's going next? Oh, James, are you ready to go next?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, and that's the end of my presentation. Thanks, guys.
That was awesome. Way to go. And now, James, who's going to follow you? No.
Let's see. Let me know if y'all can see that.
We can see it and
you can hear me. Fantastic.
Added bonus.
Okay. So my project, let's see. Okay, there we go. So quick overview of my project. It was focused on the Rockwell ASP program, which is the authorized service provider program that Kindle and Rockwell recently partnered into. And what it is, it's a program that takes a lot of the support from Rockwell being the supplier, puts on the distributor, in this case, Kindle, from a engineering standpoint. So traditionally, if we had a customer who had reached out to us about outsourcing some engineering, we would contact Rockwell and dispatch a field service engineer. Now we have some resources in place to have guys, boots on the ground guys, to go out there and do that ourselves. So what that allows us to do is kind of control the cost and sell, number one, and it really makes Kindle a more of a one-stop shop for some of, not just a reseller of goods, but someone with a technical advantage over some of our competition. So the reason I decided to do the project was because this is relatively new and it's an untapped market. So that's a pretty big growth opportunity for us. I also found out early on that we had, in our region, we've been pretty much bottom of the barrel from a ASP revenue standpoint. So it was was really a challenge that we wanted to take on and kind of see where we can go with it. So really the primary objective was revenue and profitability, and also knowledge and a new income stream for the company. So the timeline really started back in October. I met with our field service reps. Again, those are our technicians that are out in the field doing this stuff. I wanted to get an idea of maybe some wins, recent wins we had, some customer feedback of projects and things like that. Also met with our services specialist. So our service specialist is really the one driving the opportunities, and they will dispatch our field service reps and get them engaged and get them out to the customer. But really I wanted to get an idea of like a sales cycle, maybe customer target markets, things like that, that we could start looking around in our territory. That service specialist went to a services summit in December and reported back to me. And during that time, I was also trying to work with our sales manager to kind of get buy-in from the account managers. And in January, I sat down with my local account managers and did a little rollout and really discussed with them, the challenge we have with a new, kind of a new tool in our belt, and how that impacts their commission more than anything. So as anybody that's done any type of service knows that you can kind of, you have the capability to increase your margins significantly, because it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison as, let's say, a Schneider drive and an Omron drive or something like that. We also did a quick network services review in February to see how traction was going there on the network side of things. And then really from January to May, I was doing monthly calls with our account managers to get temperature checks for really our regions, what kind of conversations they were having, successes, failures, struggles, all that stuff. So some of the takeaways on the high side, really just learning something new. Again, it's a new tool in our belt and how we can take advantage of that. And then network development from a people standpoint. So I think Brian mentioned it. The people you got to talk to just going through this that you normally wouldn't think of, you get introduced to, whether they're way at the chain or, again, boots on the ground guys. You learn a lot, and just, you kind of develop that network further, use that to your advantage, and just be around different type of people. The lows, we actually lost our service specialist who was responsible for driving this stuff. We lost him in December. He's still with us. He's still with Kindle. He's still with us literally too. We didn't lose him, but he's not in that role anymore. And that kind of put a lot of the onus on myself and the account managers to drive this stuff. And it's really hard for an account manager who's been doing something for a long time, especially selling hardware, to get them to think about the software side of things. Their eyes kind of glaze over, and not the software, but the soft service or a non-tangible item to sell. It's very hard to get their mindset right on that. And then what I really learned was, if you're talking about SMART goal, I don't think I really focused enough on the time. I thought 6 or 9 months we'd be, chugging, getting POs, getting opportunities, things like that. It took a little longer. So really 18 to 24 months is probably more of a realistic timetable, but we have laid a really good foundation moving forward. And the champion, traditionally we're in the maintenance and engineering field. We found out that a lot of these people that we're going to be dealing with are IT guys, OT guys, plant management. So we got to expand our footprint in those accounts. So results, I can make it look really good and say revenue increased 1,300% because it did, but that's more indicative of how bad we were going into this. And a lot of that had to do with one big win we got at a customer for some hardware installation and software development. So invoices, just, total number of invoices coming in or POs, you could say were flat. But we do have some good opportunities in the funnel. Residuals, we just talking to customers, we found some opportunities for training that might not have bubbled up. We also found the opportunity for some maintenance, paid for straight time maintenance, where traditionally we might look at that and say, hey, let's do this customer a solid. Let's go out there for half a day or full day and just use our guy pro bono. We're not doing that anymore. We're an asset. It should be something that the customer should see as such, and we should recognize that as revenue. So next step, we need to get a service specialist. I'm hearing that's going to be any day now. We should be one of the best branches as far as our knowledge on this product, on this ASP program. Continue to work with the sales manager to get buy-in from the account managers. Continuation of updates surrounding the ASP program, and probably throwing some quarterly joint calls. And then, don't forget what I've learned the last year or so. Continue to, take time out once a month, to look at some of this material that we've gone through, focus on my strengths and opportunities.
Yeah, nice. And
That's
so
what I got.
based on your experience with this project, James, what would you recommend for us?
I recommend to do something that's challenging. I think all of us could have looked at something and said, oh, I can do this. And then in 6 months, it'll be great. And I can present it to the group and it's going to be, oh, look how great I did. Pick something that's challenging. You'll learn a lot more. If you fall flat, but I guarantee you're going to walk away feeling better about yourself, growing personally, growing in your career. So don't take the easy road, take the hard road.
Nice. What questions? Let's get a couple questions for James from the group.
James, everyone knows what IT is. Can you elaborate on what OT is?
You asshole. No, I really can't. I should know more. I think a lot of us should know. And I'd love for someone to take, someone especially.
Operational technology.
I know. I think I can spell it.
I just had to learn all this stuff about a year and a half ago, so it's fun.
I would say, IT is traditional for us, but there's a wall between IT and OT on the plant floor. So you think of like IT's all over here. This is us. We're on the building side. We're in the cozy office or in a server room somewhere, and then OT's plant floor, and it's more high level. It's how do we connect those two, and where do our guys fit in to connect those two, especially our network guy. Because once you start talking networks, I know I could just go silent and listen to jargon for 3 to 4 hours, but that's a stupid question, Brian. I'm not happy you asked it.
Way to empower him, James. James, you are so incredibly focused and have been on this. And this was a beautiful example of how what can be small changes make huge, huge impact. And when you continue to stay focused like you have been with this, especially on your next steps, your growth is going to continue. It'll be fun to watch your journey. Thanks. Who is going to follow you, James?
Let's go with my partner. Where'd she go? There she is, Lindsay.
Hey, everyone.
Nice.
Thanks, James. Yeah, he had a preview of this already, so yeah, you better ask a good question.
And Lindsay had the opportunity to work with 2 organizations as she has worked on this project. So that's an added benefit for her and both companies.
Yeah, I only have 1 presentation though. I abandoned the project once I started my new role. So, but I could have done 2.
You could have done. There's no doubt in our minds. You probably could have done 4. Lindsay,
no,
set your mind to it.
No. Thank you though. So I started a new role. And so my project is a little bit different than it was before. So just a moment and I'll share with you all. All right. So I started in a outside sales role in March. So I put this project together in 2 months, but it's already gaining traction because it's a very passionate topic that I like to work on. So what we decided as I came on board is that as a sales team, we had a few new people. I was one. I have a lot of experience, but there were 2 people coming into sales from different types of experiences. One came from an electrical contractor who hadn't been in outside sales, and one actually came from our programming side. So the 3 of us come together with very different backgrounds. And what we decided to do is come together to do, so I'm going to do 1 page at a time here, so you can see it a little better. We decided to put together some sales presentations. So we came together to figure out what the project was going to be. And each one of us has like a focus topic. My topic ended up being integrated lighting controls and talking really about a couple of things that are happening with the energy code coming up. I learned a couple of kind of new things. I've done a lot of presentations in the past. I used to work for a manufacturer where a lot of the content came from a marketing team, and we didn't necessarily get to develop as much kind of on our own. So this time around, I got to develop everything kind of on my own. And when we first sent this in, I had already kind of developed it and presented it a few times with customers. So far, we have put together a schedule on when we want to complete each one of these topics. And we also identified the key customers that are most important to hit by August. So we have the product ready to go. And we have a couple of takeaway documents that we're going to leave behind when we go to see customers. Customers are finally open. So it's been really nice to be able to roll this out and see everyone in person. The whole team has been prepared because we took a turn before going out to customers to present it to one another. And we're going to measure whether or not we get through all this in August. So we kind of touch base once a week as a team, but by August, we want to see, did we really get out in front of everyone? And then we're always measuring our sales growth every single week, but we'll take a measure for the quarter, the end of the second quarter. Is really what we'll probably look at in August. Oh, sorry, it's frozen. 1 second. So things I learned along the way, measurements are always just going to be in process. That's kind of how it works in sales. There's never going to be necessarily like, we're all done, we're going to sign and seal it and move on. So we're always going to be looking at that. And the way that I measured now is a little bit different than before. So I don't really have a great metric to look at just yet. Another couple of things that I've learned, which is hard for me, is like a perfectionist coming from engineering. And I've been in sales a long time, but it's still hard for me. But to kind of let things go even when they're not 100% complete. So we started to roll this out at 90%. I presented it for James. He gave me some feedback. I presented it to my team. They gave me some feedback. And then I went first to some trusted customers. So I knew that they would give me some feedback without being too harsh. But we got it going because there's always like no time to lose. It's better to be in front of customers than it is to kind of hold that back. Another thing I learned was I can get really passionate about really dry topics. And when I raised my hand to take on this project, everyone sort of just said, yes, go ahead. You can do the energy code portion, which I think is funny, but don't be afraid if you have like a particular thing that you're passionate about or some kind of like nuanced thing that you know really well, just to raise your hand and it can still benefit everyone. So a couple of things that we have as like tools we take away and pass out to everyone are we partner with Acuity Brands. That's our biggest manufacturing line. And so we went and targeted some of their materials that we can use along with our presentations. So I circled one of those here. Another thing that we're doing that's a little bit different because we're not always just selling products, we're also selling our expertise. We're also giving a code book as like a token of a reminder. We're covering this energy code regulation. We know you're going to need this tool. Here's our tool as a presentation. And here's also a copy of the book that you're going to need as a reference material. One other thing that I like to give at the end, I kind of talk through the resources that I use for the energy code as we go through a presentation. And so at the end, we also send a follow-up email with all the links that I use as a resource so that our customers can also use those as their own resource. So those are our planned follow-ups. We also can use some of the information that we use to come back later with a really specific product demo, and then everyone will kind of understand why it's a benefit to use those products. And then the major part of the project was making this entire presentation. So I'll run through this like really quickly if I have maybe like 1 minute or 2 minutes left. What I am really
45 seconds.
45 seconds. Okay. What I'm really passionate about is the energy code. And there's a big change that's happening to Illinois this year. It's called IECC 2021. So what I use is this really important information that everyone needs. I give them background, like how to navigate it. I give them a background on what's changing. And then at the end, I give them some diagrams that say, here's some things that are changing. It's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't use integrated lighting controls, because integrated lighting controls is less installation. And then this is a segue into a future product conversation. And that is my presentation.
Nice.
Lots of tools to take away. So,
nice.
Thank you.
Who's got a couple questions for Lindsay?
Lindsay, do you have any preferred manufacturers that you partner with to provide an end-to-end solution?
Yeah, so I work for a sales agency now. So all of our products we have contracts with. So the company that we work with for most of our stuff is Acuity Brands and Light Controls. And it is kind of an end-to-end because We provide the materials, and then we also have a separate company at KSA called Systems Support and Integration, who are the startup technicians. So they provide all the field support to install everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have for Lindsay?
I just have a comment. Acuity's marketing department they do an excellent job. So you had probably some good pieces to start from there. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we
Oh,
were
thank
partnered
you.
with you in Illinois. I love this. We're not in Illinois yet, so.
You are agile. And in today's business environment, we know how important it is to be agile and not be a perfectionist, like you said, to be able to jump into the new job, take on this project in 2 months, be able to run with information when you don't have everything you need. When you continue to be agile like that and take on projects that maybe other people don't want to do, but it's beneficial to the customer, your team's going to love working with you, and you're going to contribute even more to your new role and your new organization.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Lindsay, who would you like to go next?
Who's up here? Scott. We haven't heard a peep from you. We want to hear from you, Scott.
I've been laying low. I'm
Aw,
ready.
okay.
Here we go. Comment, please.
I like Scott and Brian one, best dressed.
Yeah, Scott, can you tell us what
Thank
the
you.
pattern is on your shirt?
It's a little koi fish. Get real up close with it.
Ah,
Yeah,
Love it.
What are they?
Koi fish.
Koi fish,
Very nice.
little
Koi fish
little boutique
enthusiast.
brand called Target.
Hey man, they got some good short sleeve button ups. I got a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Mine's flamingos.
Stocked up
actually.
recently.
Scott, you need to check out the, I don't know if you've heard of the company Rowback, but they have these awesome polos right now for like Boston. And there's like all lobsters, and you got to get one.
Okay, yeah, that's right up my my alley in terms of taste. Boston stuff. Everybody see everything all right?
We can.
Excellent. So I'm going to jump right in on this. That's not advancing as I expected. My capstone project was to review our pricing group's internal processes around supplier price line reviews. Typically, in our company, when we make changes to pricing to our customer base, a lot of times we like to use the cover of a supplier-initiated pricing change. So one of the issues that we've had historically is we've really not had a good codified set of processes around this type of activity. A lot of it would be ad hoc, where we'd be developing on the fly something new rather than coming up with, a consistent set of tools and processes to use on each of these cases. One of the issues the lack of consistent program caused is that we get distracted and we get really off focus from what is really a core responsibility, this type of profitability review. Our group has sort of 3 core focuses in terms of, profitability, some systems maintenance activities, and reporting. And one of the issues that I'm going to return to again later is that all of these things tend to crowd out what's the real value added work that we should be doing. So it was essential, not just from that standpoint, but as everybody knows, there's been a real uptick in the frequency of changes pushed down by our suppliers in the supply chain environment. So, to keep our head above water, we needed to figure out some ways to do this better and more efficiently on our end. Had a couple, too far. So I'll give you a quick timeline on this. So initially, I had this broken up into three different sections where we focused on development time, identifying what the tools are that we needed analytically, what were some of the processes in terms of communication and tracking that we had in place, and where did we need to improve on that. Some of this was internal within pricing, some conversations that we knew we needed to have each and every time one of these came down the pike. The other was identifying what are the opportunities to include or get the feedback of other groups. So we really need information from sales to understand what's going on in the marketplace often. We also need to understand from our supply chain team what's going on with suppliers. Are we going to be able to get anything with a chip in it in the next 18 months? You know, these inputs have an impact on what we on our side try to do, and we didn't have good processes around that. The second stage of this was sort of begin to implement some of these communication processes while beginning to develop some analytical tools that we wanted to use. And we sort of start figure out what we needed out of each of these conversations with different groups, talking about our purchasing side, what information we needed to get from them alongside building what was hopefully going to be an IT solution to expedite a lot of the reporting on that goes into analyzing the pricing here. And then finally, my goal was Q2, we would have this whole thing wrapped up in a nice, neat bow. We would have been using these tools for a handful of months by this point, and we would begin to understand how we wanted to track and review our past changes. What I will tell you is that we didn't get as far as we wanted to. So some of the highs is that we did successfully implement a lot of the communication and tracking tools that we wanted to. We now have a series of pre-price increase meetings within our team. We also have a series of standing bi-monthly meetings with purchasing to understand these topics. We've started delivering some better tools to our sales teams in terms of calendars and communications, giving them the heads up, oh, hey, we've got XYZ price increase coming in the next 30, 60, 90 days. So we had some real successes in those areas. And I'm happy with the tools that we put in place there. During this iteration period, we were finding out what tools we wanted to use. Data-wise, we found some new ways that we wanted to look at problems.
We got about
So
30
we weren't just
seconds
spinning
left.
our wheels.
Scott.
Sorry?
About 30 seconds left.
All right. So I'll go into the learnings, because I think that's the most critical piece.
Sure.
There's something really to be gained if we can figure out how to do this right outside of our own department. I learned about my team that I think we tend to be a little conservative in terms of identifying areas for potential improvement. We were too comfortable with the status quo. And then finally, I don't have it up on here, it's clarity and understanding the scope of what the project is. When you don't have a clear vision, which at certain points we didn't have, that can really stymie progress.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Awesome. Just got a couple questions for Scott.
Scott, I want to know how you got sales to actually give you valuable input. Because coming from sales, I hear a lot of my coworkers just complain about the price increases and not give valuable feedback.
So it's been difficult. We had a couple internal processes already, inboxes, quality event type reporting that sales could generate their own sort of pricing was bad on this and send it over. The issue is you have to proactively do that. So really where we're going now is we always want that ability to be there for sales to forward us something in that method, but we need to figure out how to sense this better from the data we have available. And that involves looking at things more than just, margin dollars on this. We don't have a great ability to track lost sales, so that sort of stymies what our ultimate, tool could be, but it's something that we're working on getting better. Our team's not great at it either, but, I think we sort of have to understand that that's going to be the nature of this sort of process And if there's any way to sense this and sort of give something more proactive, saying, hey, something looks off in this category, what do you think? You know, you kind of need to prompt them or give them the opportunity to say, oh yeah, pricing's in left field on this competitor brand is eating our lunch, and try to generate it that way, rather than just hoping that people will of their own volition come and tell us.
Scott, I'm curious, you said that one of the things that you learned was that your team's a little risk adverse. Like you have the opportunity to take a little bit more risk. Where do you feel like you should be taking more risk?
So I think in some of the areas of our work, and I'm thinking of the maintenance side and some of this analytical side, we can tell when we're running into low-hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can sort of tell when something is a little too far-fetched for our company of our size and our resources to commit to be able to do. You know, we're not going to have all the capabilities of an Amazon to look at these types of things. But in the gray area between that, we don't really have some of, you know, a way to think about and evaluate. You know, this is a project that might take 10 hours to do, and it could, you know, it's not flip a switch and it's immediately fixed. It takes some sussing out and understanding what the impact and what the real time commitment would be. But we don't do anything really in that sort of scope of improvement. So that's where I think we need to start looking a little bit more. Sometimes they're system fixes, sometimes they're ways of us doing things creatively that we haven't done before, but
Yeah.
there's stuff there to be done.
Well, you've become incredibly self-aware throughout this whole project. And you really lead by example. I know that you've got some people on your team you're really focused on developing and trying to give them the skill sets. And really, I know at the beginning of this program, you're like, I just want these principles to be a part of who I am. And they already are. Look at you talking about, we need a clear vision. Well, we started with a clear vision. When we started this program, we're going to continue talking on our vision. When you continue to be so aware of where your opportunities and your strengths are and leverage those strengths, you are definitely going to continue leading by example and get those people up and running where you want them to be in no time at all. Nice job, Scott. Thank you. Thank you. Who's going to go next?
Who hasn't gone?
Patricia, Bob.
Patricia's raising her hand, so it's Patricia.
Real quick, do we need a bio break? Do we need to quick for a few minutes, like take a 5-10 minute break here, or are we ready to go on?
I'm fine. I'm good.
Anybody?
I could step away for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's take
Yeah,
5.
let's take it.
Let's take 5.
Lindsay needs to pee, everybody. So
I
let's
do.
take a
Come
break.
on. Brian had to put it in plain terms. Thanks. It's recording, Brian. I do appreciate
At
that.
one, we'll take 5 minutes at one.
You guys see that?
Not
No.
seeing your screen yet.
Not yet? Okay. Hmm.
There we go. It's starting to come through. Double click to enter full. Oh, that's me.
Well, I can't see where it's
It's pulling up on my end. I can see
Okay.
it starting to share screen. It's still pulling up.
I can't tell where it's sharing though.
It's just a Kindle problem.
I know, it must be.
I was gonna say you Kindle people.
There we go.
Okay, good. Got it? Yay.
Internal communication strategy development.
All right, awesome. So this is my capstone project. You guys can see the title there. Let's see if I can get it to go on to the next one. Okay. So our catalyst for action that started this whole project was that we were having extreme pain with our print monthly employee newsletters. This was just last year. We were struggling, losing momentum in the article submission that was coming from our shared services organizations, as well as some other key internal stakeholders. And we were increasingly reliant on filler content that wasn't really impactful. And we had no way of measuring it. So you print something and it went out to every one of our locations, to all of our employees. And we had no way of knowing if they were really engaging with it or not. And it was a lengthy time commitment for a really creative resource that we had on our team, as well as some others to produce this every single month. So fast forward, we held a meeting with our company president, our HR director, myself, and the lead marketing communication specialist, as well as our VP of sales and marketing at the time, to discuss what our next steps would be, or what options that we would have that we could get them to buy into. And so we uncovered some issues during these conversations. One being that this was literally really our only formal type of corporate communication internally, and printed and then emailed as a PDF. So all other communication needs were just handled by the ad hoc one-off emails coming from those departments. And so there was really no succinct goal or strategy around internal communication. And so we realized, of course, that communicating to our employees was of the utmost importance, that we impacts their daily work performance, job satisfaction, and retention. And we needed a platform that was flexible. Really, the idea of the 3 pillars of our strategy was to disseminate important information quickly to help employees do their jobs, understand their benefits, all of those things, and then to amplify our corporate culture, as an employee-owned organization, and those principles that we ascribe to as a company, offering us another avenue to really disseminate that information as well. And then, offer a voice to our owner associates so that they would feel part of, as one with the whole organization. And we needed to go digital really quickly. This reminded me of Puppy Dog Dexter, by the way, when I put that in. So the planets aligned. I know we say that your quote earlier wasn't necessarily that it was luck, but we did have some fortunate events, and that we had a recent acquisition that brought to us a great resource that was a SharePoint expert. And so our SharePoint administrator was able to partner with marketing and some other key stakeholders within the organization, so that we could really start to lay out what was going to be the full strategy, the structure, the processes, best practices, and how we're going to roll it out. So as we walk through that together, the results were we developed Kindle Group's Owner Associate Hub, which is also a SharePoint-based platform. So we had to migrate all of the shared services and corporate departments in phase 1 from an internally built intranet, and we developed all the guidelines to do that. We identified champions within each of those departments and gave them the opportunity to lay out their own timeline to bring everything over. So we're doing it in a phased approach, and we created some very specific pages around our ESOP, document libraries for marketing assets, and then workflows for marketing support requests. And actually, this is done now. We're rolling this out actually to our final groups next week. So, and then the communication strategy draft, it's really underway. So this is kind of the very next steps. We are in between, we will be in between. Our HR director is retiring. Congratulations to her at the end of the month. So we will be, once we have the new HR director in place, we plan to reach out to her or him and develop this full communication strategy for the organization. And we are utilizing the platform for some back office functions too, kind of similar to Patricia's project there before, some workflows around how we handle accounting processes between different teams and so forth. And we really need to develop that next phase of feedback and suggestion options. So my most important lesson was that it really takes different approaches to lead a varied group, to get them to that yes, yes, yes phase, and to recognize what that is. You need to be a good listener and encourage others to speak up. So our IT leader, he responded really quickly. He was all on board. Let's blow up the old platform. Let's make the big change. Let's go for it. And then the person that we tapped to really be the leader for the template that all of the departments would use really struggled with the idea of, well, what if everyone doesn't like it? Or what if in the long run, I'm not on the project? So for that person, I really worked to appeal to her nobler motives. Like me, she came into the organization via acquisition. And so it was good conversations that we had about providing better experience for all of our fellow employees to just know what's going on in the company, because that's a challenge when you come in, to a bigger organization. And going forward, I definitely need to build in more time at the onset of a project to allow the team members to get to know each other so that we can all better understand needs and motivations. And to my team within the department, it also means that idea around time, to take time to show respect for each other's opinions and ask questions for more understanding, because I think with compressed timelines and always operating to a deadline, it's very easy to just say, hey, I think I got it. But really, if you could take that extra time to make sure you understand what their perspective is, I think you end up with a much more impactful outcome. And multiple reasons and ways of articulating even our team's goals. So as marketing is rolling out some new processes to the organization, we're doing that in a way where we're laying out a variety of impacts and a variety of benefits, so that in the hopes that it will apply to everyone, one of those benefits will resonate with each person that's we're asking to make some changes with. And then to my organization, I think improved ability to motivate others and a willingness to embrace the idea of not settling, I think will be a great benefit to the company, as well as the willingness to take on those cross-functional team projects. So we've got some marketing and accounting, SharePoint workflows things coming up.
Absolutely. So after you've worked on this and put this together throughout the process or the project itself, what do you recommend for us?
So I would say to be, the idea of progress over perfection. And I think Lindsay mentioned that too, to sometimes we don't necessarily know exactly how it's going to look in 18 months, but we know that there are 2 or 3 steps right now that we can take that will be a massive improvement. So I think it's that idea of making the progress. So
nice.
There's a saying in marketing that I'm sure applies to everyone. There's this idea of like, there's a 75% of marketing doesn't work because it's never launched. So I think it's that probably is in other spaces too.
What questions do we have for BJ?
To the end of it. I will say that I was surprised at the difficulty. A low that I experienced was just change management is hard, where people were used to getting something as an email attachment to try to drive them into a new way that is self-serving, so, but it's just going to take practice, and we keep, the process is in place. We just keep reiterating that's where you have to go.
And that's one of your strengths, BJ, is your flexibility. I mean, when you think about all the changes that you have constantly been going through over the last few years, this year in particular, you have the ability to focus on people's strengths and minimize the obstacles that come with it. And like, you've got new people on your team with new experiences, let's leverage them. And as you all continue to grow, it's going to be incredibly important that you continue to be flexible and choose and focus on people's strengths. And that's how they're going to continue to build trust in you. Nice job. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, congrats on getting everyone to switch over to a new platform and with an unknown, like how it was going to take, because that's hard to convince people to jump into an unknown. So good job on that.
Thank you. And I will say that it helps when you start deleting things off of the old platform. Maybe a little bit of arm twisting.
BJ, we're not going to move this. We're not going to move that.
BJ, can you explain why James hasn't adopted your new platform yet?
And I mean, I was going to ask that question, and part of it is jumping into the unknown, like Patricia said, but another part is just muscle memory, and it's habitual, where we just are used to going to that spot, and it's extremely hard to break that habit. So I was going to say, how'd you do that? But I think the answer is rely on your managers to help push it. I should be the one pushing that internally to my team after you push it to us. So hopefully, I think we've done a good job, at least locally, doing that here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that because sometimes it's technology, because if if you're in a branch versus being remote, you access things differently. So, I mean, the avenue, that muscle memory is different. Like I click on the icon, or do I start my day at office.com, or, how do I log into all of the things? So trying to make it easy in all avenues. That's kind of the goal. So
BJ, who's going next?
okay, so who do we have left?
We have Bob, we have Kirith.
All right, look, Bob, you're on my screen. It's you, Bob.
Right. Is that right? Is there anyone else? That's everybody, right?
I'm not gonna go today.
And Jeremy. And Jeremy.
So Bob's going to go next, and Bob's going to start off with humor because, one of the things I tried to focus on was technology. And the one thing about technology I didn't do was PowerPoint. So,
BJ, are you still sharing your screen?
Well, it doesn't matter. Bob's going to use flashcards in front of the camera.
There we
yes,
go.
I basically am.
That's
so,
fine. Okay.
There's my one flashcard. So, Brian, so it took you 18 years to do PowerPoint. Obviously, I'm 54 years old and I've never used PowerPoint. So anyway, so flashcards I have. So the Capstone project I selected was—
Hey, Bob, I'm going to make a suggestion real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
We can't read, at least I can't read
Okay.
that. So we don't really need it. Feel
Gotcha.
free. It's not a requirement that you go through a PowerPoint. Just tell us what you did, and just talk to us. We love seeing your face.
Oh, it's so handsome. Yeah. So the Capstone project I selected was pick some basic ways to improve profits by selecting certain criteria. The criteria I picked was reduce inventory, collect receivables, and increase gross profit. So basically, one of the things I did is I went through every single role of our company, and I had to layer them out. I picked inside sales, outside sales, warehouse, and then I came up with 6 criteria. Maintaining good stock levels, how you do reduce dead inventory, be the solution experts, leverage technology, and increase gross profit dollars. This project really helped me with defining the role of each job. It kind of put me in each and everybody's job at this company. It also helped us create scales for each job description. So inside sales is worth $15 to $18, management's worth whatever. So one of the most important things I learned from this, it really helped me focus on all aspects of the business. It kind of put me in everybody else's shoes. I really tried to learn from all the roles in this company. Again, I've probably done them all, but you just kind of forget about the intricacies of everything. Really tried to pay attention to accounting, really tried to pay attention to the driver. One of the things that I found hard is here you are going from the 5,000-foot view of the company. Now you're down in here in the trenches, crawling through helping your guys out. And so it was hard to kind of fly back and forth, focusing on everything. One of the things that I liked about this job is this project made me think about every role and how every job intertwines with everyone. One mistake makes 5 people get involved. If something goes wrong with receiving, it screws up accounting, it screws up sales, it screws up everything. And so it just really made me think about how do you improve each and every single job. I knew my people were getting involved in this. One of the things I learned, one of the biggest improvements we made was to identify dead product in the warehouse. We had a tent sale recently. We had a bunch of dead items. Unfortunately, we didn't sell all of them. The warehouse came up with a great idea. Why don't we locate them in a certain area? So my warehouse came up with an idea of let's put all the dead items on the top shelf. That kind of did 2 things. It made it easy for us to identify dead items. Now my inside sales group is they can go back to the warehouse. They can immediately point up there. They can get that dead item. I have a sale table in my showroom, so it's helping me move dead merchandise. The other thing it did now your slowest moving items are on top of the shelf. It freed up my lower shelves. So now my fastest moving items are within reach. And that helps picking orders faster, and it helps saving time. So it did some things like that. It really gave my employees a sense of job security. They're proud when they do stuff good. It really gets them all involved. And you can kind of see that. They get kind of excited when a president comes out there and sits there and talks to them. And it really gives them a feel, makes them good. They know I care about them when I'm down there in the roots with them. To me, this really gave me a great sense of pride in every aspect of the business. I really tried to think about some things that I learned in NAED in this class. And listening was the hardest thing. I finally really had to sit back, calm down. Things are not on fire. It's a light fixture. It's a piece of electrical equipment. Sit back, listen to your employees. And that was one of the things that I learned from NAED. To my team, they knew there was a trust between us. They knew they could finally open up to me. And sometimes it's hard for them to get to open up because I have the wrong last name. My name's on the sign. They feel uncomfortable talking to the president of the company. They weren't afraid to open up to me. They're not afraid to think out of the box. You know, them putting the dead merchandise on the top shelf kind of proved that. It also kind of helped give my team what their roles were and their expectations. And now it's on a piece of paper. So they know this is what is expected of them. My organization going forward, the jobs are measurable and they're quantifiable. Anyone can look at this and figure out who is doing their jobs. They also know there is someone always looking at their business, and they're trying to stay focused. So they know
Bob,
we're out
based on
there.
your experience, as we wrap this up in the last 20 seconds, based on your experience, what would you recommend for the rest of us and why?
Listen to your employees, just really get down, take time. That really is huge. Everybody's so stinking busy, supply chain issues and everything. And right now I'm 2 people down, but just sit back, relax, have a cold beer, have a good time. Life is short, have fun.
There we go, nice. Who's got the first question for Bob?
I don't have a question for Bob, but just a statement. I feel like, Bob, you've done like a total 180 in this year. I know when I talked to you in St. Louis, you were you had this plan that you wanted to do, but you didn't have the execution. And it is awesome to hear what you've said today, because I just feel like you've taken the bulls by the horn.
Thank you so very much. That means a lot. Thank you.
I want to second that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob, you are incredibly humble for the president of an organization who's got their family name up on the sign. You could just rest on those laurels and continue chugging along and everything would be fine, but you don't settle and you put yourself into this program for your own growth. And when those people who are coming to you with their ideas and feel close enough, when they see that you're continuing to focus on being the best version of you, it really inspires them to want to be the best versions of themselves and share those ideas with you. So look forward to more and more of those great ideas coming your way because people feel comfortable around you. It says a lot about you as a president. Nice job. Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, who's going next, Bob?
I gotta go with Jeremy.
Jeremy's already gone.
Oh, who's left?
No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't.
Hey.
He's about to be gone.
No.
All right, let me share my screen. How's that look?
Beautiful.
Can you
Great
see it? I
visual.
can't see it.
I can see it.
We can
Okay.
see it.
All right, so my capstone, it felt like it changed like 18 times. Being bought out in the middle of our first session, that kind of threw a hair and everything, but easily what I've come up with and presented to senior leadership here at Mayor is let's redevelop the wire center that I run here into more of a solution center that is driven successfully by a profit. If anybody has been in any type of management position, warehousing, there's no profit from warehousing. It's strictly a cost center. I want to kind of flip that thought and that idea to say that warehousing in this day and age does create a profit. And that's the direction I've decided to go. So what I was trying to achieve out of this is to promote a section of the business that generates revenue. We all know if you're on the distributor side, wire is like a non-revenue generator. It's kind of one of those milk, bread, and eggs kind of things, get people in the door so they buy everything else. I beg to differ. I think wire could be a profitable item. Maybe not huge profit, but the item that moves fastest can generate the quickest cash. That's the way I was thinking. So the project timeline, I met with the COO back in February to discuss this thought. He understood and kind of took that data that I took to him and actually went to meet with the CEO of Mayor and kind of discussed what he listened during my initial conversation with him. They both thought, man, this is a pretty good idea. It's about 3 weeks later, the CEO passed through here and he says, I think we're on to something. We just got to kind of solidify it with the accounting and the IT department side. So it was probably 2 months ago that I met with the CO again, plus the IT department and accounting. And we kind of went through a scenario where we followed an order where I purchased the material, we took the order, we shipped the material, and then, you know, what was the margin that the company said we made versus what was the realized margin. And it kind of opened all our eyes saying, man, if this is an order like the typical order, we need to highly consider this. So what were the highs and lows in the learning? You know, the high points is the immediate buy-in from top leadership and the urgency to make it happen. It was, I met with my boss on a Tuesday, he's the COO, and by Thursday, we had already had some discussions with the CEO to try to make this happen. That within 2 weeks later, the CEO was passing through and he pretty much took it and set up the organization to say, hey, we need to look at this because in the future, if we're going to open up more of these solutions type centers, we in the past have always says they don't make us money, they just generate the ability to service the customers. But now we're saying we actually do make money and the ability to service customers. So he was pretty quick on to make that happen. Low points, I mean, everybody knew that when Rexel bought out Mayor, I was just like, what just happened? This wasn't in my plan. But since then, it's been good. They've left us kind of run. We have a name for ourselves that they're just going to let us navigate and let us make it happen. Some things I learned throughout this project. You can have a vision. If you can support it with data, you can move forward. You just got to gather those people that also have the ability to make the decisions. Once the data is there, just move, make it happen. So that's kind of where we're at now. So when we talk about results and the next steps, man, I thought this project would take forever. It just took that one conversation with my boss. To me, it sped it up by about 6 months to 12 months.
30 seconds.
In July, we'll start converting myself and my center here from a cost center to actual profit center. So any of the extra money that I make on buying better and selling better, it'll stay back and hover here rather than getting dispersed out to the company. So I will think in 2023, we'll have the ability to say, all right, this center generated X amount of revenue. What if we open a second one or a third one or a fourth one? And that was kind of the plan. So,
Awesome. So what would you recommend for us, Jeremy, as you close this up? What would you recommend to us based on your experience working through this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really hits home, especially kind of with Brian's idea, just because it's $2 and you can save 25 cents by SPA. If you do that 100,000 times in a year, it can mean substantial amounts of money. So that was kind of a bit with wire. I know, man, we sell tons and tons of wire here. But as a minuscule item that makes minuscule margin, if you make an improvement of 1%, that could be a 33% gain. So as little as it may be, it may have a large return on it.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. What questions do we have for Jeremy before we move on?
Just a statement, Jeremy, that's awesome that you're actually generating a profit from what you're doing. Wire, everyone's just lucky to break even. Everyone can sell it for a profit, but after the labor and everything else, man, that's amazing. Yeah, I agree. You are a call center, and how do you make yourself indisposable? Becoming a profit center. So, man, that's wonderful. I can't believe you did that in this short a time.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Who else has a question or comment for Brian, for Jeremy?
I just wanted to say, Jeremy, I remember when we were sitting there in St. Louis and nobody could tell that something that, you were going through this internal turmoil with your company being bought by Rexel. So I just want to say that's amazing, because I know a lot of other people would be freaking out and it would really affect what they were doing. But honestly, I don't think anybody knew until you said it. So that shows true leadership, because anybody following you is not going to be afraid, because they know no matter what, whoever you're leading, you're going to be steadfast and be able to see them through.
Thank you.
Jeremy,
Do you feel like you're like having inventory on wire and cable is as adding value today? Because I know wire and cable is a hot commodity, right? Because there's all these material disruptions. So can you not make added margin as a result of having the stock availability?
Yeah, and that is absolutely the secondary key. If I know I have it, and just like last week, I went and quoted some wire, and every manufacturer was out of a certain size, but I had it here. Why not go ahead and try to make that additional margin gain? Because we invested, we had the inventory. So yeah, there's some play to that.
Yeah, I think just taking advantage of that fact can help boost your margin even more.
Correct.
who else has a thought or question for Jeremy? Jeremy, you are confident. We can see things might be going crazy underneath the surface, but you're like this calm, cool duck that, everything is calm on the surface because you have this confidence even when things are changing around you at your organization. When you continue to be confident, you're gonna be able to generate profits from the wire center, and your team's gonna be able to rely on you through even more tough times in the future.
I appreciate it. We'll see if that's true.
You have the mindset and the skill set to do so.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Jeremy, who should go next?
I quoted some wire from this person yesterday, so we'll go with Chris.
Yeah. All right. I will go last. All right.
Last but not least.
That's right. Are we good?
Wow, what a pretty picture.
Oh, thank you.
You have amazing slideshows. Like, slides. All of you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I actually did like a mock of mine, and then I kind of sent it to my marketing team they like to, BJ, you know all about that. They like to look over everything. So, okay. So for my capstone, I kind of took a approach on something that I kind of felt maybe wasn't really my responsibility at first. And as I kind of grew in this program. I had a really good conversation with Brian about it. I decided it was absolutely my responsibility. So my mission here was to create a more structured training program for our new hires here within our company. And this was important because our previous training program wasn't measurable. We didn't have any way besides just being subjective and saying, you know, I feel like this person's doing great. And so we threw them in a territory and hoped for the best. What we were seeing was a higher turnover rate among the sales team. And then in those exit interviews was, you know, I don't really feel like I was set up for success. And so we had to take an inward look at our current training program. As a regional sales manager, I was responsible for, you know, onboarding new hires and kind of just getting them adjusted. So I wanted a more measurable program, which is what we started at the beginning of this. And a way that I love when we talked about, and I think it was in St. Louis when Jackie brought up the Google psychological safety. And as a sales team, those of you who, you know, are in sales, we joke around with each other. We sit really close. People are kind of, you know, nagging on each other. And I was hearing a little bit of that with like new hires and kind of feeling like maybe they didn't feel like they had such a great space to ask questions. So I wanted a program where we would have a mentorship, actually just one person assigned for, you know, questions. And then that mentor was reporting to our management team with the actual data that we were able to get with this training program. So when I got back from St. Louis, we formed a committee. So me and 6 other of our members of our sales team in different ranges. So we took a person who had just got out of our previous training program, and then another salesperson who had been here for 12 years. So we had a big range, you know, someone who was fresh out of a training versus someone who had kind of seen what extra training someone should have. We collaborated with our marketing team to form these training modules, which you'll see on the right, we have developed into what we call ServiceWire Academy. Which is an online training tool that we actually have launched to customers, contractors, distributors. But we have taken a lot of that information and kind of made it more geared towards our sales team. So we have 2 versions of that. And then of course, looped in our mentors to kind of help spearhead our new hire as they follow along with ServiceWire Academy. So what I learned about myself through this, you know, creativity and collaboration, I have really enjoyed working together with our group here, our kind of committee, the new hire sales committee that we created. And, you know, what I noticed is through appreciation and kind of, you know, taking on this, you know, this committee, I've been able to get a lot of really good feedback. And by being open to feedback, we were able to kind of adapt this program totally different than really what I had thought I was leaning towards in the first place. So being able to receive that and show appreciation for that. And a challenge, which I kind of briefly looked over my 360 right before this. So admitting, I feel like I have a real problem admitting when I'm wrong, even when I know I am. And it was interesting to see my peers had kind of disagreed with that. So that was good. So those are just some of the challenges that we've had during this, or I have personally had. And then what can you do as a leader? Kind of what I learned, recognize breakdowns. So recognizing a breakdown within my organization. And I felt at the beginning, like I said, that it wasn't really my responsibility to come up with a training program for our sales team, but it absolutely was. And it was my job to recognize that. And then to believe, like, okay, so this ties into the first one, to get rid of the belief that the problem isn't yours to solve. I had an idea, I had a committee that was willing, they had the belief in the program. And then by getting all of our brains together, we were able to inspire change. So hopefully that's something that you can take away too as leaders. And the benefit here with this is we provided value. So now we have a more structured program, a new hire who actually comes out of the program. We've had 4 new hires use this new platform, the
Nice.
Service Wire Academy platform. 2 of them, I wish I could have put this in the presentation, but 2 of them were given a territory 2 to 3 weeks prior than past new hires because of their advancement and their understanding of our company.
Awesome.
One was moved, instead of an inside sales role, they were moved to a strategic accounts role. And then one of them had said that this was the best training that they had ever received. They've been at a couple different companies. Yeah. So the new hires felt valued, confident, and inspired. So that's what we did.
Kira, that's awesome. What questions do we have for Kira? She wraps us up.
I just have a comment, Kareth. I love that you already have all of this measurable success from your program, and you were able to accomplish all of that in such a short time frame. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. Kira, you are assertive without being aggressive. You combine your confidence with your friendliness and taking 100% responsibility for things. You could have said, well, that's not my job. You didn't. When you continue to take 100% responsibility for what's going on and see where you can make an impact, things change dramatically. And your sales team is going to continue to grow, and turnover is going to continue to go down. And you're going to take the sales to all kinds of new levels.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Big deal. So what? How would you describe the purpose of us? As somebody who wasn't in this program, what was the real purpose of this Capstone project? I mean, it's pretty amazing, the results that we have from this group. Was it those results? Was it that you're saving hundreds of $1,000s in 6 months? Or what was the real purpose of this Capstone project, in your all's opinion?
Applying the principles and what we learned in class to actual real life situations.
Demonstrate leadership skills.
Mm-hmm. Could we have achieved this in without the Capstone, like this leadership project? Would it have been the same without this Capstone project?
I think the
it
Capstone
would.
adds some accountability, puts skin in the game. So you're actually focused on knowing that you had to present something to a group. If it was just go back to, your offices and practice this stuff without a presentation, I think it would have been easy for us to kind of push it back out the priority list.
I think we are all capable of achieving what we did. I think it's more of the successfulness of the end product that was.
That's what I was thinking, Andrea. Like, we could have done the Capstone without the class, but I don't think we could have done it as well without the class.
Yeah, I think the network that we have created here really helped us all, because we could bounce ideas off of each other, and we all have different strengths. And we were able to utilize that.
Sometimes people ask me, like, hey, what are some things that people have been working on? And I would never, ever share anyone's Capstone with anyone else. So NAED has access to them. We haven't. They will not be shared unless you tell me, oh, you know what, if you want to share it as an idea with someone, you're more than welcome to. So if you would be willing, because these are impressive, these are all really impressive. If you would be willing for ourselves, NAED, to share them with others, please let us know, because we'd love to show off what this group has done. Kitty, what's going through your head as you just listen to those amazing projects?
Well, as Jackie said, I mean, I would love if we could, and we could obviously redact anything that's company specific, or, I know all of you kind of kept it generic anyway, just because of competition issues, but you all had such a a myriad of different projects you took on. I mean, I was fascinated just by listening to the different types of things that each person did, and each one was so impactful. I'm really impressed with everyone's project, and the great insights that you got on yourself and your company from it. So as Jackie said, anything you'd be willing to share, even if it's just what I learned about myself and what I learned about being a leader from it. I'd love to have that as a resource, and to be able to talk to others who are interested in what is this program really going to do for me, and you know, why is it impactful? So thank you so much for sharing all that. I'm just impressed with all of you.
Out of curiosity, like what, oh, here we go, it's not, it's snipping tool. What, I'm not here, we didn't hear a lot about like what your leaders have said. Have they seen what you've done? Have they seen these end results already? Have you presented this all to them?
I mean, for mine, the president of the US wanted me to launch my project early, and we had to tell her no.
Wow.
It wasn't quite ready. So yeah, she's seen it and she sees the value.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, mine was similar. A couple weeks ago in our last team meeting, my manager asked for me to present on it, and I was like, hold on, I'm not quite ready yet. So he was just to get it out there.
Good. Well, it's exciting to think about it. And the good news is, if you want to share with us some exciting results that happened after the program, you know how to get a hold of everyone in here. We would love to stay in touch and hear future successes from the work that's been done in this year. And as you think about continued growth, it doesn't stop now, right? You're a group of leaders who are focused on continual growth, and we always are getting better all the time. Because like, what would happen if we stopped focusing on growth now? Like, oh, did the leadership program that year, now I'm done. All right, we probably wouldn't go very far, or we might get someplace, but not where we want to go. So we're going to spend just a little bit of time talking about how we can stay focused going further. And because I know how much you all love math, we're going to answer just a few more math questions as we do that. All right. So take yourself off of mute and let's just shout out the answers to these questions. I'm going to ask you, please don't use a calculator. But as soon as you know the answer, just shout it out. But please, no calculators. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's see who can answer this question first. Is
49.
49.
Oh, very good. Now, 7 times 70.
490.
Pretty good, y'all. All right. 97 times 112.
James got this one.
2,363.
You didn't blurt it right.
It's a bigger for this one.
And it would end in a 4, James.
So why did we know 7 times 7 so fast? Why did we know 7 times 7?
Multiplication table test back in the 2nd grade. I'm relearning
Absolutely.
it.
Perfect.
Right. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3, right? Over and over, and everybody quizzing us. And what about 7 times 70? It took a little bit longer, but we know that process, right? Anytime you multiply something by 0 with a 0 and then just add a 0 and you multiply it by 10. We have files for that in our brains. We don't have a file in our brain for 97 times 112. If we did, we'd be able to say it as quickly as 7 times 7. So the last question of this quiz is, what do you want your life to look like in a year? When I ask that, is that a 7 times 7? You could just spit it out and tell me what's going to be different. What's your vision for the next year? Or is it more of a 97 times 112? So if it's 97 times 112, we don't know it off the bat. What if I told you that We're going to have a reunion at LEAD. And when we get there, if you can tell us the answer to 97 times 112 as quickly as you can tell us the answer to 7 times 7, how many of you would know the answer if I said I was going to give you 100 grand? How many would know the answer? And Brian, why would you know the answer then?
Incentive.
Yeah, and how would you remember it?
Think of 100 grand minus whatever this equals this number.
Okay. What are some things that you might do if you said, okay, I need to be able to spit this answer out as quickly as I can? What would you do?
Get a tattoo.
You might even get a tattoo. You know what? This tattoo is worth 100 grand. You might have it tattooed right there on your arm. You would make a file for your brain to remember the answer. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now, but not with numbers, because you guys don't really like numbers so much, but what we want our lives to look like and how we can get a file in our brains for that, because our brain has a lot of power. It literally can't tell the difference between who you are today and who you want to be, right? Can't tell the difference. So for example, like I love sweets, especially Rice Krispie treats. Like I love them. I have no willpower. If I say, oh, I'm not going to have any sweets for a week and somebody brings them Rice Krispie treats, I'm dead to them, right? Well, I'll just have one. And then it turns into 4, right? No self-control. And then when I say that I have no self-control, my brain is actually listening and believes me, doesn't have a reason not to believe me. So when I do want to have control, I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat that. And your brain goes, you're going to, and you're not going to eat just one, you always eat more. And then you're going to avoid them later, right? That's the file that I have in my brain. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy, the things that I say, like, oh, I have no self-control when it comes to sweets, right? Your brain has so much power that it can actually make new files too. It can make new files if we put those files in there, like we did in 3rd grade with our multiplication tables. Like when you're walking down the sidewalk and you get to the end of the sidewalk and you go right or left, have you ever seen like where there's a corner cut where there's like a path in the grass, right, cutting through there? And that happens because somebody's making a shortcut, right? But that path doesn't happen the first time somebody walks through the grass, does it? You got to walk through the grass again and again and again. It takes a lot of people walking through the grass. The next thing you know, there's a new path right there. That's what we have to create for ourselves, for the things that we want our brains to tell us. And we can do that. And it's called neuroplasticity. We've probably all have read about it in some article or another. And it's the way our brain makes some connections. So now the question now becomes, what do you want your brain to say to you? What do you want your brain to say? We're thinking in the future here, right? What about next year? What do you want it to look like in a year? What do you want it to look like professionally, personally, anywhere else in your life? What do you want it to look like? When you all came into this program, you wrote very clear visions for yourselves, and look at the results that you have. That doesn't have to stop because this is our last virtual session. When we write that vision, we're going to have to make new paths in our brains if we're going to be somebody even better, right? So the question is, what do you want your brain to say to you? What do you want your brain to say to you? Think about that right now. What do you want your brain to say? What are 3 things you want your brain to believe in you? For instance, for me, I want my brain to say, oh, you've got enough time. There's enough time to get this done. You are so organized. And oh my gosh, you live a healthy lifestyle. You eat healthy, you work out regularly. Those are the things that I want my brain to say to me so I can achieve my vision. What is it you want your brain to say to you? Take a moment right now, literally on a piece of paper, write down 3 things you want your brain to say to you over this next year.
Another example could be what my brain wants. What I want my brain to say to me is that I am positive, confident, and relaxed. I put on a big smile, bright smile every time I interact with my coworkers and clients.
Because sometimes Tree forgets that he's confident and relaxed, don't you, Tree?
You know, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm tired and I am not confident.
So then you have to remind yourself, right? And your brain needs that file to remind you, oh, you are. And if we're going to do that, you know, we're going to help our brain remind us, we need to write it down. We need to read these daily. Even record yourself saying it, post it where you can see it, because sometimes I forget that I'm organized. And then I remind myself, oh, I don't procrastinate. I forget that I don't do that. And so I have to remind myself on a regular basis, you don't procrastinate, get that done. That's not who you are. Get it done. All right, so these final talks that we have right now are going to be quick, right? We're not going to elaborate. We're really going to focus on, we only have 10 minutes left in here. We're going to each get about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to express ourselves very clearly and concisely. Think about your answer, your response to these questions. What's the most important thing that you learn? When did you learn it? What it means just to one of you, like what does it mean to you or your team or your organization? And what are those 3 things you want your brain to say? In 30 seconds.
Becky, you're referring to like the overall experience of the
The
program.
overall experience, yeah. It's the most important lesson that you've learned. We've already heard some of them. We're going to take the opportunity to go through this very quickly. These are the last words out of our mouths to this group in a formalized place, virtually, that we're together. What are those words going to be? Short, sweet, and to the point.
When you're wrong, to admit it emphatically.
Go on. Thanks for starting us off, Patricia. When you're wrong, admit it emphatically. You learned this when?
When I was directing the group to dinner and I chose the wrong path.
And so what does this lesson mean to you, Patricia?
Well, I learned that when I admitted it and then we took corrective action, nobody seemed upset and they still followed me.
Actually, Emily quit the program because of the situation.
No, I gave her a piggyback ride. I made it up short.
That's right.
That's true. So what are the 3 things you want your brain to say to you going forward, Patricia?
You're a great leader. You can manage your time properly and you're healthy no matter what.
Nice. Bob, what's your greatest lesson? We're going to do this really quick. Bob, what's the greatest lesson you learned? You are on mute, Bob. Go ahead and take yourself off.
I say confidence. I used to think I used to get angry. You know, people would bring you, life's a poop sandwich and you sometimes have to take a bite. People would bring me problems and I'd get frustrated. Now I just kind of, you know, I don't laugh at them, but you sit there and think about them. So I'm confident and I can come up with the right solution. So confidence has helped me be more relaxed. And 3 things my brain are going to tell me: I need to be healthy in the future.
Not need to be. You are healthy. Your brain talks in positives. Yeah. Present tense, positive. Yes. Nice. How about you, Andrea? 30 seconds. What's the most important lesson?
All right, as some of you might recall, I came into this program in a really bad place. I was struggling with my leadership team. And so I realized that if I could have more of an open mind and think about things from another person's perspective and what they're going through, then that would help me, you know, overcome some of those obstacles.
When did you learn that, Andrea?
I learned that actually really early on during this program, and just having those like very open and honest conversations, encouragement from everybody really who's involved in this program. And the three things my brain is going to tell me moving forward, because sometimes I have a lot of self-doubt, is that you know what you're doing, you're an expert in your field, I can inspire my team and be a great leader, and I am healthy, I eat healthy every day and work out every day.
Yes, you do. Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
of
Brian,
course.
Brian, what's your biggest lesson, Brian?
Said during a little presentation, when leading people, you need to have a clear, concise message that they can understand. So just because you understand it doesn't mean anyone else will. So it's basically being relatable.
And when did you learn that?
When I wasn't getting the reaction I was hoping to get at the beginning of the capstone.
Yeah. And what are three things your brain's going to tell you going forward?
Honestly, I only have one, and it's only the one thing that's the most important thing in my mind right now is just be happy. You know, it's, you know, when you have when you struggle with depression, that's a big part of it. And when I'm happy, everyone else around me is happy. And if they're not happy, it's easier to lift them up versus, you know, staying down here with everyone else. So that will honestly, that's all three of mine.
Nice. All right, Scott.
All right, my biggest, I have the ability within me to be a good leader. Figured that out in our St. Louis session. I forget the name of the exercise, but we were telling really emotional stories. And something in that session resonated with me and reminded me of that.
Good.
In terms of the impact on my team, I just know that I am capable, and when I'm my best self, my teams and my organization are stronger for it. And then my three items, I want to do work that gives me energy and satisfies my curiosity. I have all the tools I need to be a good leader, and then show up every day.
Nice. Really show up. How about you, BJ?
What was Scott's last one?
Show up every day.
Show up every day. I love that.
Really
So
show up.
I love that. So I learned also probably pretty early on in the conversation or the program that you know, that it really just matters to take time to listen to others' perspectives, and that's how you'll get them on board. And really at the same, that was in St. Louis. I think just listening to everyone's you know, different approaches and going through some of those exercises where it's like you see it your way, but not the same way others do. So that was very impactful. And the three things that that my brain will tell me next year are: you manage your work and personal life well, and you prioritize things appropriately, and you're confident and have influence.
Nice. Nice. How about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, I learned that I need to slow down. I learned this when Patricia and I were doing that like clap, stomp, whatever it was in change management, and still laugh. We were really cracking up when we did that. This will impact my team because almost everything we do, everyone needs it now, but they don't really need it now. And if we just slow down 1 or 2 more minutes, we'll have less anxiety and we'll get it accurate, which is what we really need to do. Next year, 1 year from now, I will have less anxiety because my brain will tell me I am capable, I am steady, and I am caring. And that's what matters.
Oh, nice. Thank you. How about you, Jeremy?
Oh, wow. Really, I think it is. I think it's me and James. We went to lunch with Emily in San Antonio, and you know what her doing after halfway through this program just kind of resonated with me. Take the risk, go after it. Professionally, with your career moves, even within some of my feedback. I mean, my boss said I don't take enough risk, and I'm sitting here thinking I'm risking it every day. So I actually draw up a whole new job description while we're sitting here on this thing, because it's kind of putting those thoughts into me, saying, well, the next step for me is this, so I'm gonna present it to him.
Cool. How about you, James?
So going into the program, I felt, especially being promoted to a leadership role, I was very instinctive. And just thought that whatever my first instinct was the right call. But the lesson I learned was that it's better to have a plan, especially when you're dealing with a team of people. specifically when I learned this, and I think Kareth actually mentioned it in her presentation, was the Project Aristotle that Google did with the psychological emotional safety. So learning about that and then how it affects my team is it creates a better think tank instead of someone just, me being the leader just takes my ideas and runs with it, allows other people to create their own ideas and empowers them and the branch in a profitable way. So the three things my brand's going to tell me is be confident, reliable, and personable.
Nice. Thanks. All right.
We also have Danielle.
Kareth. Oh, I'm sorry, Tree, what?
No, Kareth can go. I also have Danielle's final thoughts. Okay. When everyone's done, I'll just share it quickly. Go for it, Kareth.
Okay. All right. So my biggest takeaway was probably to be okay with the gray. I wrote something on my desk during all this that says cheer and chill. And so the cheer kind of reminds me, cheer for others, keep that positive attitude. And the chill is like, chill out. It's all going to be good. It's just wire. So cheer kind of been my motto after I learned to be okay with the gray. And then the three things that I want my brain to tell me, Jackie, I'm kind of copying you with the I have time because I always feel like I don't.
Right.
I am important here. I think that's been a good one for my brain to tell myself. And then life happens.
It does. It does. Okay, Tree, how about Danielle?
Yes. So I'll just share the screen real quick. Danielle's final talk says that the most important lesson she learned was to be honest with herself where she's spending her time. She learned this when she did the Post-it note exercise. I don't know if you all remember the value car activity. She realized where she spends most of the time versus where her priorities are. So since then, she's been more mindful. And then what it means to her and her team and organization is that she's really focusing on her time and mental health check, spending time socializing and being genuinely interested in other people. And that's a way to protect people's health, and that leads to higher levels of performance when we take care of one another.
Nice. Thank you. Wow. Wow. So here's the part that I am so glad that we are not a part of. We've got just a couple minutes left and we're going to end on a very high note. Right now, we have to decide who among us, who in this group do you feel deserves to leave this program with the highest achievement award? That person that you feel implemented the principles, demonstrated the competencies, saw growth, really gave 100%, and also helped you grow too. We're going to private message that name directly to Tree Fam. Tree, are you ready for that?
Yep.
All right, so whoever you think it is, and my gosh, I'm glad, Tree Kitty, that we don't have to vote for this because I'm not sure I could. Everyone in here has been fabulous to work with.
Yeah, votes are coming in.
All right.
Wait, Jackie, repeat again who you said what the criteria?
Yeah, the person who really demonstrated the competencies, the principles, and showed growth throughout this program. Thank you for that clarification. Others probably had it too. After this, in fact, I'll share my screen if you want it. We've got a really quick survey and you can grab it with your phone right now, but I know Kitty's sending something out, but this is something just a little different specifically about the work that we've done in here. If you could, after this program, you can take the QR code now and take it in a minute. I'll send it out in an email too. If you could give us this feedback, we would greatly appreciate it. In addition to what NAED is going to be sending you directly. I'll put this out after the email. Tree, do we have a top vote getter?
So I have 9 votes. I'm trying to see who hasn't voted yet, besides Danielle, because she's not here. I know that. So Karis voted, James voted, BJ voted, Scott voted, Ryan voted, Patricia voted, Andrea. Okay, I didn't vote. All right, got it.
Danielle texted me. She's voting for herself.
Oh, okay.
We all vote for Emily? Is that right?
Right. This has been fabulous. Thank you all so very much for this treat. Are we ready to announce?
No, not yet. Give me another minute.
All right.
Quick, what's 7 times 7?
Don't make me move. Counting. All right. I think we have to vote.
Woohoo! Drum roll.
And I just want to say, like, the fact that we have different nominations speaks to the volume of you all being leaders. It's like it's a tough competition, but we have found a winner, and the winner is Lindsay Phoenix, highest achievement award throughout this program. Lindsay, come up with me and share,
Wow.
please.
Thank
You were
you.
calling at the highest achievement award recipient.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I did pour my heart into it. And I have to say, I was not in a good place when we started this program personally. And through my new job, I know a lot of you said I'm happier. I am a lot happier. I found a good fit. And I think that this program also helped me find the confidence to follow that. And I think one thing that's kind of funny, that kind of goes hand in hand with what we're kind of leaving the day with, is that you have to kind of tell your brain what you want and what you want to follow, and having a reminder at your desk can help you do that. So when I was looking for a new job, I made like a list of things that I want my life to include. And this is still here on my desk 3 months later. And I look at it and I'm like, yes, this is still what I wanted out of what I'm doing. So remind yourself that your values are most important. And I really appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.
Lindsay, it's amazing to see how beaming you are like today versus the first time we all saw you. I mean, like it's like you broke out of the shell all of a sudden.
It definitely is. We'll stay on, but out of respect of everybody's time, our time is over. And I'm staying on. My last words for you as a reminder of what Dale Carnegie always tells us, my very favorite quote. He says, people seldom succeed unless they're having fun at what they're doing. Go out, have some fun, and you will see success, everyone. Thank you so much. I look forward to our paths continuing to cross over the years. You will get a reminder from me, an email with the QR, with a link to the survey. Kitty will be sending out a survey also later. I don't know if it's tomorrow, today or Monday, but you'll get both of those. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Good weekend.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Jackie.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say that I remember that the beginning, I think it was our first class,